live in unprecedented times. Thankfully, we're here today, living in the new normal, albeit virtually and digitally.
And in 2020, unsurprisingly, Southeast Asia's migration from the offline to the online economy broke all estimates. Changes that were expected to take place over half a decade took place in just 1 year, in large part because of the consumption habits brought about by the pandemic.
If we fail to effectively address and mitigate accelerated climate change now, it would cost us so much more. It would be a cost in terms of quality of life, in terms of resources, and our very existence in the future.
We have to look at it as a whole. Everything is linked, everything is interconnected and interdependent.
We have a very strong point of view that the future of jobs really in this digital economy, which now all of us are getting exposed to.
Technology and public health are not often mentioned in the same breath, and yet technology adoption and economic growth have become more correlated.
This could be a time when the unicorns of tomorrow are being founded.
Strong growth is near inevitable in 2023, what with most countries having eased their travel restrictions already. That's according to the Economist Intelligence Unit. The world, however, is still dealing with a lot, including climate change, geopolitical tensions, and high energy prices. In the Philippines, 6.39 billion of the nation's budget this year has been allocated for tourism, With this budget and with various stakeholders across the industry helping get it back up, how will Philippine tourism fare as it journeys in its road to recovery? Will it bounce back and be even stronger than its pre pandemic strength? Hello, I'm Patricia Mirasol and I report for Business World. Join me right now in this forum as we explore the possibilities for tourism in the Philippines. Joining me right now are four panelists. Our first panelist is Cristina Garcia Frasco, Secretary of the Department of Tourism. Prior to being handpicked by Philippine President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. to lead the Department of Tourism in June of 2022, she was a multi-awarded local chief executive, the three-term mayor of the municipality of Liloan in the province of Cebu, where tourism is the main economic driver. Under her leadership, her town of Liloan was awarded Top Model Municipality in the Philippines and Most Resilient Municipality in the country. She was a top performing mayor, ranking number one among all municipal mayors in Central Visayas. She is the recipient of the Presidential Lingkod Bayan Regional Award for Excellence in Public Service. During the 2022 national elections, she was the spokesperson of now Vice President Sara Duterte. She was recently ranked one of the top performing cabinet officials of the Marcos administration with her highly collaborative and proactive approach to tourism governance, with the Philippines having exceeded its tourist arrival targets for 2022. She is determined to carry out the president's vision of transforming the Philippines into a tourism powerhouse in Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, Philippine Tourism Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco. Hello. Good morning.
Hello, good morning. Maayong buntag. Magandang umaga po.
All right. Would you like to share your opening remarks?
Yes, first of all, I'd like to express my gratitude for the opportunity to be with all of you today, and especially to Business World for this online forum that seeks to shed light on the performance of the tourism industry. I've prepared a few slides to assist in my opening statement. The good news is that the momentum for tourism recovery has already begun under the administration of President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., who has clearly articulated that tourism is a priority under his administration, thereby rallying all government departments to support the programs and plans of the Department of Tourism as we seek to strengthen the tourism industry from the ground up. At its peak, tourism contributed massively to our economy with no less than 12.9% contribution to our national GDP and constituted 13.6% of the national employment. In 2019, it generated over 3.74 trillion in tourism revenues and was our third largest source of foreign revenue. These figures indicate the potential of the Philippines to have a more primary position in the ASEAN and the world as far as its status as a tourism destination. The vision of our president is to transform the tourism industry into a tourism powerhouse in Asia. And that has entailed taking a long, hard look at the essential pillars that need to be improved in order that we may be able to allow the Philippines to compete globally, especially in terms of infrastructure, accessibility, connectivity, and the like. Through the interventions that have been introduced by the Marcos administration, as well as trends in global travel, revenge travel for that matter, the good news is that in 2022, the Philippines has bounced back quite strong in the tourism industry, with our country having exceeded its initial targets of 1.7 million international arrivals and having garnered 2.65 million in international arrivals, therefore exceeding and overperforming our targets by almost 1 million. The contribution of tourism to the economy continues to be staggering. giving no less than 1.784 trillion in combined international and domestic revenues to our country in 2022. This has translated to what is the most important element of tourism transformation, and that is the provision of livelihood and employment to our fellow Filipinos, with no less than 5.2 million of our kababayans employed in the tourism industry in 2022. Since our country opened its borders in February of last year, the effort of our president has been to ensure that we convey an openness to the world in terms of travel, trade, and tourism investment. That is why we have seen the benefits of conveying such an openness and the adjustment of policies of coming into the Philippines, with international arrivals in the country having already garnered over 1.8 million in arrivals in the first 4 months of this year. Clearly, we have met all of last year's targets of 1.7 million in a matter of 4 months. Under the National Tourism Development Plan for 2023 to 2028, the vision for Philippine tourism has been laid out, and that is to establish a tourism industry that is anchored on Filipino culture, heritage, and identity, which aims to be sustainable, resilient, and competitive in order to transform the Philippines into a tourism powerhouse in Asia. To undertake the implementation of this vision, we are embarking on 3 key strategies, namely connectivity, convenience, and equality. On the aspect of connectivity, we are prioritizing the destinations in terms of negotiating for more flights coming into the key destinations and additional flights to lesser-known destinations. We are also joining our fellow government agencies in implementing the President's directive to institute visa reforms in our country, such as the introduction of electronic visas, the resumption of group visas, as well as visas on arrival. These efforts are specifically aimed towards being able to capture 2 huge markets for tourism, and that is China and India. The good news is that group visas have been resumed for China. We have also looked into the maximization of our secondary gateways, looking to expand flights out of our Metro Manila airport into our secondary airports such as Clark, Cebu, Davao International Airport, and the like. On the aspect of convenience, we aim to ensure that the overall experience of coming into and going around the country is positive. And that is why we are providing tourism information booths all over the Philippines that will provide convenient information to our tourists, especially in malls such as SM, as well as to take away all the encumbrances of coming into the country that may provide inconvenience, such as the One Health Pass. That has since been replaced with the e-arrival card that consolidates the information needs of 5 government agencies. So your departure and arrival experience is now fully electronic. As you may have already seen, we have already instituted improvements in NAIA Terminal 2. That is to introduce the warmth and love and the work of the Filipino people the moment that you land in the airport. Therefore, the airport now has improved Filipino aesthetics, a mini garden, comfortable chairs and lounges, charging stations, and the like, all for the convenience of our travelers and tourists. This effort will also be replicated in other gateways in the Philippines, including Davao International Airport and Cebu City Pier 1. To address one of the most basic necessities of traveling across the Philippines, yet one of the most neglected, we have already begun the breaking ground of no less than 10 tourist rest areas across the country in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. And we are breaking ground on 10 more this year. These tourist rest areas have an information center, a pasalubong center to help our MSMEs peddle their local goods to our tourists, as well as clean and decent restrooms for our travelers. To be able to give tourists information direct to their fingertips and allow them to curate their experiences into the country. We are taking tourism to the digital age by introducing a tourist life cycle app that allows you to put in a keyword and immediately provides you with information on the regions and provinces that provide the particular experience in tourism that you would like, and even go so far as to directly connect you to a tour guide in the area. At the moment, when you encounter any difficulties or issues when you are traveling across the Philippines, it's difficult to know what number to call for assistance. That is why this year we're instituting the Tourist Call Center so that our tourists may be able to have online hotline assistance 24/7 at any given time. On the aspect of equality, the vision of our president is to ensure that countrywide development is felt through tourism and that no destination is left behind in the development of tourism in the country. That is why we're exploring various tourism portfolio, including multidimensional tourism, with the intention of introducing to the world or reintroducing to the world the Philippine experience. That is to allow our tourists to experience our destinations not just through our natural resources, but also through our festivals, our food, the product of our local artisans and makers. This Philippine Experience Program, we're already launching in May of this year in Davao, followed by other regions across the country. Recognizing that our greatest strength in tourism really is the excellence in Filipino hospitality, the Department of Tourism is embarking this year on a never-before set goal of training no less than 100,000 Filipino tourism workers in order that we may be able to fully maximize on the strength of the Filipino hospitality and ensure that the experience of our tourists coming into and going around the Philippines is positive overall. Peace and security is the bedrock of tourism development, and that is why we are continuing our training of our tourist police across the Philippines. We've already trained no less than 6,700 tourist police across our destinations. Recognizing the necessity of assisting our fellow Filipinos in securing tourism-related jobs, especially those that were displaced because of the pandemic and various calamities, we have instituted the very first Philippine Tourism Job Fair in collaboration with the Department of Labor and Employment called Trabajo, Turismo, Ascenso. This has already had 2 legs across Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, having offered over 16,000 jobs, and we will have the 3rd leg in May of this year. We have continued to sustain promotional efforts for the Philippines domestically and all around the world. In fact, I've just returned from Los Angeles to launch the Bisita Be My Guest Philippines, as well as in San Francisco, aiming to give our fellow Filipinos the opportunity to become tourism ambassadors for our country. We also had a very successful showing at the ITB Berlin, having brought the biggest Philippine delegation and raked no less than 261 million pesos for the country in negotiated sales by our travel and tourism partners. These efforts have been replicated in various jurisdictions across the world, continuing to promote the Philippines as a top-of-mind destination to our tourists. Under the Bisita Be My Guest program, we aim to ensure that our fellow Filipinos are given incentives for championing Philippine tourism. That's why we're offering raffle prizes such as condominiums, house and lot, free airline tickets, and the like to Filipinos who will invite a foreign friend, guest, or spouse to visit the Philippines. In more good news, the Philippines continues to reap international recognitions from reputable award-giving bodies. The Philippines is currently the world's leading beach destination, the world's leading dive destination, and Asia's leading tourist attraction. Because of our efforts of opening up the Philippines to be more connected to other destinations across the Philippines is also the recipient of the Routes Asia Award, and it is now the world's leading country destination for tourism. The effort of the Marcos administration is to give the Philippines a fighting chance at becoming a tourism powerhouse in Asia, and that is why we have instituted programs and plans to ensure that the tourism industry bounces back stronger than ever, and to ensure that the essential pillars for tourism to succeed are addressed in the years to come. Daghang salamat.
Thank you very much, Secretary Frasco, for sharing all those interesting information. Let's dive more into that later on in the Q&A. Our second speaker is Maria Suzette Geminiano. Maria Suzette Geminiano is the marketing head of Hotel Sogo. She obtained the degree in nursing and is a registered practitioner after completing her academic pursuits at Chinese General Hospital colleges. Ms. Geminiano is also a certified digital marketing specialist and a digital analytics graduate from Wharton University. Everyone, let's welcome on screen Ms. Geminiano. Hi,
Hi,
Ms. Sue.
good morning. Still good morning, right?
Good
Yeah.
morning. Would you like to share your opening statement?
Oh, yeah. Hi, I'm
Okay.
Sue. You can call me Sue, the corporate marketing manager of Hotel Sogo, and I'm so delighted that I'm here today to discuss further the rebounding tourism of the Philippines with the guests and other panelists. Well, the COVID-19 pandemic has caused significant disruptions to the tourism industry. However, I can see, and we are very optimistic of its rebound or its recovery. Hotel Sogo, here at Hotel Sogo, we prioritize the safety and well being of our guests and our employees, our coworkers above all else. We are continuously implementing stringent health and safety protocols, and even up to now, we are still having this 11 innovations against COVID. In 2020, when the pandemic uh, arose, this was we Hotel Sogo was one of the hotels who provided free rooms to the frontliners, medical frontliners, and Hotel Sogo also provided our hotels, our rooms to the marshals during the restrictions. I remember at that time we have no transportation, and there are a lot of kababayans who were stranded. So Patasogo was open then for them. Well, we provided 800 rooms to a total of 800 rooms to all the medical frontliners and also the OFWs who went back here in the Philippines. Now, I believe Hotel Sogo is a best place, most especially to people who are budget conscious, and a best place for everyone here in the Philippines who wants to have a staycation and cannot travel as of the moment because, uh, well, Philippine domestic travel, we are open also because we have 46 branches nationwide. So, in conclusion, we still remain optimistic about the future of the Philippine tourism, and by implementing the right measures and working together, we can further rebound and emerge a stronger uh, tourism industry. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sue, for that opening statement. Our third speaker is Ms. Patria T. Chong, President of the Philippine Travel Agencies Association. Ms. Patria T. Chong is previously worked for Philippine Airlines for 25 years and Air Philippines Corporation for 11 years. She occupied various positions at PAL, from Chinese interpreter to station manager of Hong Kong to country manager for Singapore and China and assistant vice president for in-flight services. She also served as senior vice president for marketing, sales, and administration at Air Philippines. Welcome, Ms. Chong.
Thank you. Good morning.
Hello. Good morning.
Ye-
Do you have an opening statement you'd like to share?
yes. Presently, I am the president of Philippine Travel Agencies Association. And of course, these are travel agencies all over the Philippines from Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. Now, um, of course, we all suffered the hardest hit area or sector, is the of the pandemic is the travel and tourism sector, and we of we even to the extent that, as you well know, Philippine Airlines closed down, and a number of travel agencies also were closed, and as well as some of the hotels and resorts. And we all were very sad when the Makati Shangri not only closed down but permanently, okay, closed down. Now, presently, we are very optimistic and enthusiastic because we are now launching revenge travel and tourism. We are not only promoting our country as a tourist destination domestically, but internationally as well. Of course, we start in the ASEAN region since we belong to ASEAN. No, we work closely with our neighboring countries. We only not promote Philippines as a tourist destination, but we also cooperate and collaborate with our ASEAN neighbors to promote two country destinations, three country destinations. In other words, not only promoting the Philippines as a single tourist destination, but also two or three countries destination in ASEAN. Now, domestically, of course, we are encouraging our Filipino travelers to not only travel internationally, but we should also promote our own country by traveling domestically. Because I'm sure a number of us from Luzon have not visited Mindanao. Like, as you well know, Secretary Prasno is from Cebu, so that's Visayas, no? So we should not only promote Manila, because Manila is already congested to our international travelers, but also promote the other cities, because we only not have Manila as a tourist destination, but we also have Cebu, we have Davao, we have Siargao, and other destinations in the Philippines. As we well know, all of us know that the Philippines is an archipelago, and we have more than 7,000 islands. And we cater to all types of tourists, not only those from the high end, but even from, whether you are seeking adventure, seeking you want to go to the mountain areas, like the senior citizens, they would rather, they're not the adventurous type anymore. So we have Baguio, and those who would like to go for diving spots. What I'm trying to say is we cater all to all types of tourists, depending on your preferences, depending on your budget. We also can offer different types of hotels, 5 star, 4 star, depending again on your budget and your preferences. So, but more importantly, there should be a very, very close collaboration and cooperation between the private sector and the public sector. And I'm very proud to say that under the leadership of Secretary Prasno, the Philippine Travel Agencies Association support her fully and completely. We trust in her leadership, and we support her programs in terms of promoting the Philippines as a tourist destination. So I would like to urge all of us, not only in the tourism sector, but also in the media sector, and all Filipinos, to help in promoting and supporting the uh, the Philippines as a tourist. Let's explore our country. I'm sure a lot of people from Luzon have not visited Mindanao, and I'm sure also a lot of people from Mindanao have not visited Visayas and Luzon. So domestically, we are 110 million people. We have more than 7,000 islands. Let's visit the different islands from Batanes to Jolo, and not only traveling domestically, but also let's encourage tourists from abroad, not only the Bayan, but the Europeans, the Americans, fellow Asians, the Japanese, the Koreans, to come and visit our country, our lovely country. Thank you very much. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chong. I'm very happy to note that all the messages so far have been optimistic and enthusiastic, and that there's much hope when it comes to domestic tourism. Our
Yes.
fourth speaker is Mr. Robert John Horrigan. Completing our panel today is Mr. Horrigan, who graduated from the prestigious Le Rouge School of Hotel Management in Switzerland and thereafter at the School of Hotel Administration of Cornell University. He joined Hyatt International shortly after graduation and became part of the dream team that opened Grand Hyatt Hong Kong. Mr. Horrigan is a board member of the Chaîne de Rôtisseurs and a vice president of the Hotel and Restaurant Association of the Philippines, vice president of the Hotel, Restaurant, Cafe, and Catering Philippines, and vice president for the Tourism Congress of Luzon Tourism Estates. Mr. Horrigan is also the president and CEO of Horrigan Hospitality, which consults and manages 21 hotels and resorts in the Philippines. Welcome, Mr. Horrigan.
Good morning. Good morning, Patricia, and good morning to Secretary Cristina Garcia Frasco of the Department of Tourism. Good morning, Sue Eminiano and President Patty Chong of PTAA. Thank you very much for having me here, Business World, and we're very excited with Philippine tourism because it's exciting times because it's rebounding. We feel it, we see it. We just finished the 5th Philippine Hospitality Summit last week in City of Dreams, and the biggest players in our industry were there, and we were talking about tourism, and the Department of Tourism has been doing an excellent job. Secretary Frasco, 1.8 million tourists for the first 4 months. So it's surpassing. I think this year, 2022, was, I think they were estimating to have about 4.8 or 5 million tourists, international tourists, and I know they're going to go way beyond that amount. So, my opening statement is really tourism is the key to improving the lives and the economy of the Filipinos. I know in the next 2 years we're opening 98 hotels. You have SM just signed up with Radisson, 14 new hotels. You have Discovery Hotels opening more hotels in the country, Hotel 101. You have international groups like Accor, Ascot, and Dusit opening a lot of hotels, Chroma Hospitality as well. So we see more and more hotels coming up. With the Hotel Restaurant Association of the Philippines, we've seen our occupancies go higher and our average daily rates. In our restaurants, we have more and more diners. So it is here, revenge travel and tourism, and is back. So it's we're looking getting more GDP for the Philippines for tourism. I know we're looking at 12.9% in 2019, and we really need to bring our GDP for tourism to 20%, like some of our neighbors like Thailand and Malaysia. And the key is the World Tourism Travel Council, the WTTC. They were talking about the Philippines, and we have the best beaches, the best people, but they were talking about infrastructure. And so that's one area that we lack, meaning international airports. And so we're very excited with HRAP that we're building the Bulacan Airport, the international airport that can accommodate 35 million tourists. And then we have the Sangli Airport. And we recently finished Legazpi and Panglao and all of these international airports. So what does this mean? This means that we can bring our international tourists to 20, 30 million. And this will eliminate our poverty in this country. So I really feel, and we believe that with tourism, we can get poverty out. We can be one of the powerhouse players in tourism in the world. So we're excited because it's happening soon. And we have the best people, the best talent, the best smile, the best heart. And so we're excited for 2022 and 2023 onwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Bobby, and I'm glad to hear that tourism will be generating a lot of jobs moving forward because jobs is quality jobs are what we need in our country. All right. Thank you very much for all those opening comments. Now let's jump right into our panel discussion. Please note that this will be a free flowing conversation, so please do share your thoughts. My first question will be about projections. So I will be addressing this question to Secretary Frasco. Secretary Frasco, what are your projections for the Philippine tourism industry in 2023? And are you bullish about your previous estimate that domestic tourism is going to recover this year?
For 2023, the projections of the Department of Tourism are that we would be able to usher in no less than 4.8 million in international arrivals. And we fully anticipate the 100% recovery of domestic tourism this year, meaning no less than 122 million domestic trips. With the growth that we are seeing this first quarter, and as very clearly articulated by our previous speakers, we are very confident of being able to accomplish our goals, and that I consider to be our baseline, not our ceiling. So the effort really is to make it a moving target, in that while these numbers have been identified, we should not stop at trying to rake in more international arrivals into the country. I also wanted to say that the expression of support is very much appreciated, as we are very much aligned with both our travel agencies associations as well as our hoteliers in the need for instituting infrastructure and improving connectivity into the Philippines. And these projects we will see come into fruition under the Marcos administration this year and in the years to come.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Frasco. I'm very glad to hear that the 122 million domestic trip projection is a baseline and not the ceiling. So it clearly the Department of Tourism is very ambitious. I would like to ask a follow-up question because you mentioned in your opening statement that the vision is to make the Philippines into a global tourism powerhouse, and that the three pillars are connectivity, convenience, and if memory serves, I think the third one is equality. I have to mention infrastructure because part of convenience is infrastructure. And on May 1, one of our airports again was in the news because it suffered a power outage and caused the cancellation of at least 48 flights. So my question is, how can such incidents and how can the impact of such incidents be minimized in the future so that we can have the convenience that we aspire for our tourists?
Infrastructure has actually been identified as the number one of the 7 objectives of the Department of Tourism under the National Tourism Development Plan. And that is why we're working very closely with the Department of Public Works and Highways, as well as the Department of Transportation, to ensure the improvement of air, land, and sea transportation. In terms of the DPWH, the Department of Budget and Management has recently indicated that no less than 16 billion pesos has been devoted to tourism infrastructure this year. That means increasing tourism roads into our tourist destinations and further opening up not just the well-known destinations, but the lesser-known destinations, bringing opportunities to the countryside. This effort, the Department of Tourism will continue to be very aggressive on, especially in terms of giving opportunities for our local government units who would like tourism to be the main base of their economy. In terms of the Department of Transportation, we do have an existing memorandum of agreement with them, wherein the DOT presents its suggestions on improvements as far as the pain points for tourists in our land, air, and sea gateways. With regard to the recent incident on the power outage, I believe the Department of Transportation would be the best department to answer this, considering this is chiefly within their jurisdiction. But from my end and the Department of Tourism, our effort really is to emphasize the importance of world-class airports. In Cebu, which hosts the best airport in Asia under the 5 million category, we're seeing it to have excellent performance in terms of both international and domestic tourism, further emphasizing how important it is to have global standards in terms of our gateways.
All right. Thank you very much, Ms. Frasco, for that. I'd like to move on to the top drivers that are boosting tourism's recovery this year. Based on your observations and the trends in your industry, Ms. Sue, what are the top drivers for this recovery? Because I mentioned you mentioned rebounding, the word rebounding a few times. So yeah, what are driving these
Well, I
this
can
impact?
I can see what boosts our tourism now. The drivers are, well, the websites, the guides that we have, like on the internet, and other tips, press releases, the blogs and vlogs, social media activities. There were some large activations, commercials or advertisements online, or quad media, and to update our guests and customers constantly. So these are the drivers that I can see, which will really boost our tourism. Also, this kind of activity that we have, the panel discussion, so people will be informed of our plans, the plans of the people or the organization in the tourism industry. So these are the things that I can see that would help our country or our tourism rebound back to its, or at least improve.
Okay, so connectivity matters a lot.
Yes.
All right. Okay. You also mentioned that the Hotel Sogo is targeting the budget conscious market. And how is that panning out right now?
Well,
What with the inflation?
well, first and foremost, we did not increase our accommodation room rates. So that's one. Since time immemorial, our rates are considered affordable since we are offering a sachet philosophy business model. It is something like whatever number of hours you need, that is the only amount of rate that you will be paying, that the guests will be paying. Say, most especially the backpackers or some who are staying at the hotel for a seminar, they will just stay in a hotel to sleep. And then the next day they have to get up and go to their seminars. So they will only pay the number of hours that they've stayed sleeping, and with the full hotel accommodation, like a five-star hotel service. So that's the reason why I say it's really a budget friendly hotel. So for people who are budget conscious or who just want to stay for a staycation, to pause for a while and relax for a moment, or even just for a few hours, we are here at Also Good to serve this market.
Thank you for that. How about you, Mr. Bobby? What are the top drivers for tourism recovery in hotels and restaurants? You mentioned earlier that in the next 2 years, 48 hotels will open up here in the country. I think that's
Actually,
awesome.
98
Oh,
hotels in
98.
the next two
Okay.
years. It's
Wow.
exciting. Well, our drivers is one is the MICE market. We're looking at more meetings, incentives, conventions, exhibitions coming in. Um, During the pandemic, that was all online, and so now we're seeing it's a hybrid right now. So we're seeing trickles of international businessmen coming in, but we'll see definitely more. So that's one of the drivers. Another driver is a travel corridor. If we can do a travel corridor with South Korea and China, we'll definitely see more tourists coming into the country. Um, of course, the congestion in our airports, which they're working on right now, is definitely going to improve. So those some of our key drivers.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Bobby. And Miss Patria, earlier I heard you mention that a strong collaboration between the public and private sectors are very important. And we heard Secretary Frasco's many initiatives, including the tourist life cycle app and the tourist call center and the tourist rest areas that will be set up in Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao. What are your thoughts on these government initiatives, and how can the private sector help improve these initiatives? Personally, I love the idea of the tourist life cycle app. Just an app where you can check which attractions you can see in which destination.
Yes, as I mentioned, the Philippine Travel Agencies Association fully support the initiatives of Secretary Prasma, no? Because I believe that there should be a close cooperation and collaboration between the public and private sector. Now, as travel agents, whereby we are based all over the country, Luzon, Visayas, and Mindanao, we of course market different destinations in the country, not only to our domestic travelers but also to our international travelers, depending on their budget. In other words, those who can afford five-star hotel, by all means, but those who can afford budget hotels, we also cater to them. We cater to different types of tourists, and we also offer different destinations, as well as different those would like to seek adventure, those would like to go for diving spots, those would like to just have relaxation, depending on their needs and their requirements and their budget, more importantly. Now, for us, we will support, as I said, the initiatives of the Department of Tourism by advertising them, by promoting them to our prospective customers, and not only through social media, but to the traditional advertisement venues. And for me, the best way of advertising is the word of mouth advertising. Because if you experience a very pleasant and wholesome, uh, let's say you visited Cebu, you have never been to Cebu, and you enjoyed it immensely, what happens when you come back? You tell your friends, your relatives, oh, punta kayo sa Cebu, ang ganda ng Cebu, ang sarap ng pagkain, lalo yung mangga, ang tamis, no? So, word of mouth advertising is the best way of convincing friends and relatives to visit preferred destinations.
All
Salamat.
right. Okay. And based on data from the PTAA, which countries are international tourists coming from, and which destinations do they usually gravitate to?
Okay, downside lang, the Philippines, as I said, we have a beautiful and lovely country. We have a lot to offer, and we can cater to different types of tourists. Unfortunately, there is a misperception. To a certain extent, media din natin eh. Kung minsan kasi, ina-advertise natin. Kung minsan sa dyaryo natin, di ba? Sa halip na yung mga positive news, yung iba, well, what I call, yung negative journalism, meaning, inaano nila yung namatay isang turista o biniril ang isang turista, ninakawan ang isang turista sa Pilipinas, no? So, ang dating sa ibang destinations o sa ibang bansa, now we are a dangerous destination. Hindi naman tama. Unfortunately, tayo mismo eh, no? So, yung sa media, hindi ko naman sinasabi, kasi ang mga friends ko nga noon when I was based in Singapore, in China, sinasabi ko naman sa kanila, bakit? Anong sinasabi nyo, dangerous destination kami? Aba, teka muna, hindi lang naman ang crime nangyayari sa Pilipinas, nangyayari naman yan sa buong mundo, no? I mean, kidnapping doesn't happen only in the Philippines, it happens everywhere. In New York, mahaging na, grabe, di ba? Everywhere in the world. How come you are putting emphasis sa Pilipinas? Now, we are a dangerous destination because when I was based abroad, I was promoting the Philippines as a tourist destination and encountered all these negative comments, no? And sinasabi ko lang sa kanila, I'm not saying that we are 100% peaceful and crime-free, no? But neither am I saying na other countries are not. It's not fair to the Philippines. Crimes happen everywhere. It's not a monopoly of any country for that matter. So yun ang perception nila sa akin, which is unfair to us. To a certain extent, nasa ano kasi natin, kung minsan kasi sa media natin, lumalabas, sa dyaryo natin, lumalabas kasi, ni-emphasize natin masyado yung mga negative aspect eh. Dapat hindi eh. Sorry alam ko sa media kayo, pero I'm just voicing my own observation and my own experience. So we should help each other, and not only the private and public sector, but tayo as Filipinos, no? Because we are abroad and a lot of balikbayans, I always tell them when I go to the States or to Europe, na as Filipinos, we should promote our country. We should tell our friends, bring a friend. Maganda yung mga programa ni Secretary Krasno. So, bring your friend, a foreigner, not the balikbayan Filipino, kasi balikbayan Filipino, Pinoy yan eh, no? Uuwian sa Pilipinas kasi to visit relatives and friends. Pero yung talaga like European, whether Dutch or German or Italian, convince them, no, to visit the country. That's what I do every time I go abroad. I always tell them, and of course, I inform my foreign friends, come and visit us, and I'll show you around. If all Filipinos would do that, ilan ba tayo? 110 million. Let's say, kalahati na lang. 55 million na yun, di ba? How many tourists? Madali ma-achieve yung target ng Department of Tourism. Maraming salamat.
Okay, thank you for that, Ms. Patria. Okay, I have a question about Filipino culture and heritage, because it was mentioned earlier that the vision for Philippine tourism will be anchored on heritage. What are some of the unique ways that international tourists can experience Filipino culture? I mean, given what you mentioned, Ms. Patria, that us Filipinos should encourage more people to visit our beautiful country. This question is addressed to anyone. What are some unique experiences that we can showcase and boast to the world?
If I may.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay,
Please
Secretary.
go ahead. Yes. Well, if I may, Ms.
Sure.
Patricia. Yes.
Yes, please.
Well, first of all, I wanted to say that the passion and the fervor with which Ms. Patria has championed Philippine tourism is precisely the reason why Philippine tourism continues to rebound, because those in the front lines, in the person of our travel agencies, our hoteliers, and people fronting the tourism industry continue to believe in the Philippines and continue to herald the good news about the Philippines. That's why I feel very honored to lead a department where our partners in the private sector can be relied upon to convey that the Philippines should and is a top-of-mind destination all over the world. I also wanted to assure our travel agents that on the part of the government, our president has led the charge of presenting and negotiating with various governments all over the world that still have existing travel advisories against the Philippines, to encourage them to revisit these travel advisories so that they may be adjusted to reflect present circumstances, especially as far as our peace and order situation is concerned. We are launching the Philippine Experience in various regions and provinces across the Philippines that aims to give our tourists anywhere from a 3 to 5 day tour package, wherein they will have an opportunity not just to visit the destination, such as a beach, nature-based destination, the mountains, heritage, a church, and the like, but also to experience Filipino culture by witnessing our festivals, taking part in activities that are unique in the area, visiting our communities, for example, those that still hold the Filipino identity through our tribes that continue to engage in community-based tourism, such as weaving, nature-based tourism, as well as also to taste Filipino food. So we are designing the Philippine experience around the strengths of the local destinations. The first one being in Davao in May, to be followed by Ilocos Norte. Then we'll also be featuring Bicol, Calabarzon, and other areas in the country. These opportunities to get to know the distinct characteristics and culture of our regions and provinces will not only be open to international tourists, but most importantly to domestic tourists. I was very struck by Ms. Patria's statement that for a fact, many people from Luzon may not have had the experience yet of visiting Mindanao. That we find to be true. And that is why, beginning last year, we launched our various travel expos to give exposure to Filipinos from across our regions. So we've launched the North Luzon Travel Fair, wherein we brought our regional offices, officials, as well as private stakeholders from Central Philippines and Mindanao to North Luzon and to engage in familiarization trips so they can get to know that area. We are done with the Mindanao Travel Expo, wherein we brought people from North Luzon and Central Philippines to Mindanao. And in the next few months, we are also launching the Central Philippines Travel Fair to bring North Luzon and Southern Philippines to Central Philippines. And so the effort really is to allow our domestic tourists also to further get to know our country by visiting our various destinations.
Wow, that's a great initiative. I actually I can relate to what Miss Patria said because although I've been to Mindanao, I haven't been to certain places that have negative connotations, peace and order wise. Okay. But, so, what are our biggest sources of tourists? Which countries are our biggest sources of tourists, and what accounts for our attraction for their attraction to our country?
Well, at the moment, the number one source market for tourism is South Korea. So they've reclaimed their number one status as our international tourists. It was the United States last year, and now the US is number two, and that's followed by Australia, number three, followed by Canada, Japan, and China. Notably, China used to occupy a number two spot way back
Yes.
in 2019. And data would show that China was able to export outbound Chinese tourists in no less than 160 million people. And so we recognize that to be a huge opportunity for the Philippines. That is why, from the end of the Department of Tourism, we've been pushing for the implementation of the electronic visa system, specifically for China as well as India, as directed by our president. And the result of the visa convergence meeting that we held together with the DFA, the ICT, Bureau of Immigration, and the like, is that the DICT and the DFA are now presently working together in terms of being able to launch an e-visa system, hopefully within the year.
Okay. Thank you for that information, Ms. Brasco. I'd like to ask one question about challenges in the sector because I'm thinking right now that, what with the ongoing crisis in Ukraine, there are hotels and restaurants are probably grappling with high food prices. And I'm also thinking the airline industry also has to contend with high fuel prices. So, given these concerns, high food prices, high fuel prices, how is the industry managing and coping? Miss Sue or Mr. Bobby?
You can go ahead, Sir Bobby.
Okay. We're actually we're passing a bit of this to the consumer, but it's getting better. 6 months ago, when the war started, Ukraine and Russia, it was very hard for us because inflation was high, food prices were going up. So, but then now we see the fuel costs going down. So it's better for the hotel side for the energy cost. So that's much better. So if you look at our average rates that we charge all our guests, it hasn't increased that much. So it's still relatively good compared to our other ASEAN neighbors. So we're okay in terms of that.
If
Glad to
I
hear
may,
that.
yeah,
Yes,
if I may
please, Miss
add to
Sue.
that, you would notice all the packages for plane fares, isn't it? It did really gone high, right? If you can see, there are a lot of travel packages with discounts, a lot of discounts. So I don't think they, even the planes or the uh, airfare has been affected with that hike, right? And I can say, as I've mentioned earlier, our hotel did not increase our room rates. nor the food. Even if there were some shortage with the sibuyas, onions, right? Remember, we
Last year.
weren't affected. Yes, we did not increase our prices for our food and beverages. So I don't think that it's just a short while though,
Okay.
right?
So the effect is just minimal, and it was a passing effect. It didn't really last. Okay, great to hear that.
Right.
And now I want to move back to opportunities, because I heard that the FIBA Basketball World Cup will be hosted by three countries this year, including the Philippines. So I'm thinking sporting events, niche activities like sporting events and concerts. Would these be also a great opportunity for the tourism sector to latch upon on? Anyone?
Oh yes, definitely. I mean, all of this, we welcome all of this, and the more hotels that we have, the more tourists that we can get into our country. And like I mentioned earlier, we have the best people in the beaches. I think we were number 26 most beautiful country in the world, and so a lot of countries have issues with manpower. Their beaches are not as nice. We actually have them all. So it's really infrastructure which government is working on right now. And so what happens is the private sector, like our owners, they're building and pacing when they see these airports coming up. When they see more and more airports coming up, that's when they start building. So the Philippines can have at least another 2,000-3,000 more hotels in the coming 5 years. And normally it takes 2 to 3 years to build a hotel. So right now it's perfect that we're building all of these hotels to accommodate Bulacan Airport and Sangli coming up.
Okay, glad to
I'd
hear that.
like to
Yeah, yes,
add,
please.
Patricia. Yes, on two aspects. First, with regard to MICE, and second, with regard to tourism investments. As far as international conventions and exhibits and sporting events, for that matter, are concerned, we're very pleased to know that the Philippines is hosting FIBA, and we are in full support of all of the activities surrounding this global event. And we are also ensuring that the primary position that the Philippines used to occupy in terms of decades ago can be regained. First, by having a focused program on MICE, and we're doing this through our Tourism Promotions Board that now has instituted an enhanced MICE program. And second, continuing to usher in investments as far as bigger destinations for conventions and exhibits, not just focused on Metro Manila, but other destinations, which is why we're also tapping our infrastructure arm, the Tourism Infrastructure Enterprise Zone Authority, or TIEZA, to be able to increase the number of tourism enterprise zones in the country that can cater to such large-scale MICE developments, noting that with the revised Public Service Act and the recently passed CREATE law, there are actually very attractive incentives for investment into the tourism industry. As a matter of fact, if you are a foreign investor in a tourism related enterprise, you are allowed 100% foreign equity. Not to mention incentives in terms of lower corporate income tax, amnesties in terms of certain taxes, and the ability to be able to claim tax exemptions on certain activities related to the construction of the tourism investment. So we're excited because the policies that are being instituted by the Marcos administration are designed in a manner that would attract more investment into the country, especially to be able to welcome more international and large scale global events.
Wow, this is the first time I heard of the tourism enterprise zones. That sounds very useful indeed. Okay, so I think we have to move on to audience Q&A. There, I have one question here. The question is, How can the tourism industry prevent tourist destinations from being environmentally damaged due to a surge in arrivals and accommodations, as we have seen before in Boracay when it had to be rehabilitated? Anyone? How about Miss Patty? Would you like to share your thoughts?
Well, the government has to step in, no? Because privately, we cannot control the number of arrivals. It's exactly what we did to Boracay. You know what happened to Boracay, di ba? So definitely, the government really has to step in. The government really has to impose restrictions and to impose strict rules to be followed. And if not followed, unfortunately, DOT kasi doesn't have the teeth, no, to punish those violators. The LGU is the one. Kung minsan naman yung LGU is very, very supportive of the initiatives of the Department of Tourism. Unfortunately, there are other LGUs that are not that supportive. So what we need is cooperation between the LGUs and the initiatives of DOT. Because if DOT doesn't have the authority to punish the violators, then these people they are not scared, no, and they're gonna violate rules and regulations. So my suggestion is the government sector should work closely. The LGUs should support the initiatives of the Department of Tourism.
Okay, all right. I
May I
wonder, yeah, yes,
add,
please, Ms.
Patricia?
Pasco.
Well, I'd like to thank Ms. Patria for presenting a very real and true answer to the question. Because the fact of the matter is that you may have very beautiful sounding policies on sustainable development, but if you're unable to implement it on the ground with the cooperation of the local government unit, then it really serves no purpose. I come from the local government unit, having been a mayor myself, and I know for a fact that it is really in the hands of the mayor as
Yes.
far as the political will that would be exercised in implementing rules and regulations. That being said, the bedrock of tourism development under the Marcos administration is sustainable tourism. And this actually is the umbrella of all of the policies that have been instituted under the National Tourism Development Plan. In relation to this, we recognize the gains that have been made with the rehabilitation of Boracay. That is why we're now underway as far as the reconstitution of the Boracay Interagency Task Force in coordination with the DILG as well as the DENR. As far as the regulation of other ecotourism destinations in the country, we are proposing the formation of a National Sustainable Tourism Council to be populated by the DILG, the DENR, the DOT, as well as related government agencies. All in all, what it will entail is first, perspective that post-pandemic and seeing the ills of over-tourism, our focus should not only be on quantity but also quality tourism.
Qualitative.
Second, in terms of regulation, it is necessary for national government and local government to work together in partnership with the private sector. And so it's a whole of government and whole of nation approach as far as ensuring that we're able to institute policies that ensure the longevity of the destination and to ensure also that we encourage our tourists to leave the destination better than when they found it.
Yeah, thank you for that, Ms. Frasco. I have one last question. Anyone can answer. What with the increasing awareness on climate change, are there now more tourists who are willing to pay a bit more if it means that their choices will help save the environment? Do we have more tourists like that? More tourists who are concerned about sustainability, like they're willing to pay more just as long as what their choices are, you know, beneficial to the environment.
What we see in the hotel industry is people paying a higher average rate of maybe 300 US dollars and above, the people staying in luxury hotels, they really look into what sustainable practices that the resort or the hotel offers. And a lot of times for a long time here in the Philippines, it was for most of the hotels and resorts, it was like a PR points. It's a market. It was all about marketing for sustainability. But when the local government said, "Listen, we really need the STP. Everything needs to be. You cannot have single plastics anymore in your hotel rooms for bath amenities and all that." And they started working on it. So now, majority of hotels and resorts are very sustainable. So they're doing the practices that are needed, which other first world countries are doing.
That's awesome. That's wonderful to hear. Unfortunately, we don't have any more time, so we have to proceed to our closing statements. Perhaps each one of you can answer the question, what are your key takeaways from this last hour's discussion? Let's start with Ms. Frasco.
Well, I'd like to express my gratitude to Business World for the opportunity to herald the good news about Philippine tourism. We recognize the contributions of our partners in the tourism sector, from our hotel associations, our travel agencies, our tourism frontliners, our small and medium enterprises that all contribute to the tourism value chain. You have my assurances that we will continue this collaborative effort towards the recovery and transformation of the tourism industry, noting that the approach towards tourism by the Department of Tourism, as directed by our president, is now not only towards promotion, but really, most importantly, towards addressing the issues that have long surrounded Philippine tourism to be able to strengthen it from the ground up. And since I'm here, I'd like to take this opportunity to invite my fellow Filipinos to travel across the Philippines, noting that we have a long weekend coming up and that every time you travel, you help a Filipino family, you help a Filipino tourism stakeholder and frontliner. So book that trip, book that flight, that boat trip, or that land trip, or that staycation for that matter, and support Philippine tourism.
Thank you very much, Secretary Frasco. How about you, Ms. Sue?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, I would like to thank Business World for having us here, and I have learned a lot from my fellow panelists. And in the course of this pandemic or the past 3 years, I have learned different angles of changes of behavior of the travelers. Now, let's say one is the people who became hungry to travel, like the revenge tourism, and people who are very much eager to do their relaxation and recreation. The second is the people who got so scared of the virus and tend to stay at home or somewhere else enclosed and not go out and mingle with other people. And the third one are the people who have experienced losses of other family member. So these three experiences or behavior will all still drive us to improvement of our tourism. Why? Because the hunger to travel, of course, these people would be booking a lot of travel destinations and other staycations. And the other is fear of virus, that they will choose a specific area or a hotel like Hotel Sogo to just stay within the area and not really travel as far as going outside the country or within the Philippines. So they will just stay there since instead of going out to some crowded places. And the third one, the people who experience losses of a family member or loved one, they tend to spend more time with their family members. They will in long weekends or if they are given the chance to stay in one area together with their loved ones and family members, they will do that. They will take that opportunity and they will with their loved ones because of their experience they realized or we realized that time is so short. So these things that I've learned would all increase and improve our tourism in the Philippines.
Thank you very much, Ms. Sue, for sharing those silver linings. Mr. Bobby?
Thank you. Business World, thank you very much for having us. Secretary Frasco, thank you for the amazing job you've been doing in the last 1 year. I remember we were in Davao 2 months ago, and we were talking about a Filipino brand of service excellence, and you're teaching 100,000 people, training 100,000 people, and this really helps. And what's nice is the Philippines is in the radar now of people who are traveling. So I would like to tell everybody, all the viewers, please support local. You just don't know how beautiful our country is. I mean, we have the best beaches from Cebu to Batangas to Palawan to everywhere. And so it would be nice for you to go out and rather than going abroad, support local first because tourism is really our key to success for this country. Thank you.
Thank you. I love that. Tourism is our key to success for our country. Okay. Last but not the least, Ms. Chong.
I would like to thank, of course, Business World for inviting me and my fellow panelists. I learned a lot from you, and especially to our beloved Secretary of Tourism, Secretary Christina Garcia Brasco. I idolize you. You have done a lot in your first year as Department of Tourism. And as I mentioned earlier, we fully support you in all your initiatives. You can rely on the travel agents for 100% support. Now, as far as us as Filipinos, and I agree with Bobby, we should explore. No, we have a lovely and beautiful country. We have more than 7,000 islands, and we should explore. We can visit, from Batanes to Holo. It's an archipelago, and unfortunately, as I mentioned earlier, and it was also mentioned by our secretary, a number of people from Luzon have not visited Mindanao. No, Mindanao, aside from being the country of our President Duterte, is such a beautiful area. Not because I'm from Mindanao, but you should. I would like to invite all of you to have a taste of durian in Davao, and a lot of beautiful spots, no, in Mindanao, in Cotabato, in Zamboanga. Uh, so uh, before traveling internationally, let's travel domestically first. Know our own country, visit our own country, love our own country, enjoy our own country, and promote the Philippines. And when we travel abroad, let's not forget that we are there as Filipinos and not only convince our friends and relatives, but convince friends of friends to come and visit our beloved and beautiful country. So, maraming salamat again to all of you and mabuhay tayong lahat.
All right. So let's all be ambassadors to our country and let's all put Mindanao as part of our bucket list. Okay. Thank you very much to our speakers, Maria Suzette Geminiano, Patriot Patty Chong, Robert Bobby, John Horgan, and Maria Esperanza Cristina Garcia Frasco for sharing their valuable insights. Thank you so very much. Thank you very much also to our audience for sharing your time with us. Last but not the least, thank you to our sponsors, Sogo Hotel. We are grateful for making this discussion possible. Much gratitude also to the following organizations for supporting this online forum: the Asia Society of the Philippines, the Bank Marketing Association of the Philippines, the French Chamber of Commerce and Industry in the Philippines, the Management Association of the Philippines, the Philippine Franchise Association, the Philippine Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and to our media partner, the Philippine Star. Thank you. Expand your business intelligence with BWorldX, a newly launched subscription-based e-commerce website where you can access Business World's library of print and e-paper issues, special reports, magazines, conferences, and webinars like Business World Insights, plus exclusive content you can only get from the Philippines' most trusted and award winning business information source. Visit and sign up now at bworld-x.com. Follow Business World's social media pages and be updated on our next projects. This is Patricia Mirosol, and this has been Business World Insights. Have a great day and go travel.
We do live in unprecedented times. Thankfully, we're here today, living in the new normal, albeit virtually and digitally.
And in 2020, unsurprisingly, Southeast Asia's migration from the offline to the online economy broke all estimates. Changes that were expected to take place over half a decade took place in just 1 year, in large part because of the consumption habits brought about by the pandemic.
If we fail to effectively address and mitigate accelerated climate change now, it would cost us so much more. It would be a cost in terms of quality of life, in terms of resources, and our very existence in the future.
We have to look at it as a whole. Everything is linked, everything is interconnected and interdependent.
We have a very strong point of view that the future of jobs really in this digital economy, which now all of us are getting exposed to.
Technology and public health are not often mentioned in the same breath, and yet technology adoption and economic growth have become more correlated.
This could be a time when the unicorns of tomorrow are being founded.